I thought it would be a good idea to run all the way across the Sahara Desert,
Which is
was closer to 5,000 miles actually than some of the published numbers, but that's because I got lost a lot. If you want to master something, like it's what you think of when you wake up in the morning, and it's probably the last thing you're thinking of when you're going to bed at night. And like whether it's a business or it's a personal thing or it's athletics, like you're thinking about that thing and how can I get better? The more often I do hard things on purpose, that I put myself in a position where I'm going to do something that I'm probably going to want to quit, like running a marathon or running 100 miles or doing some whatever. Like there's going to be a point where I am literally self-talking and saying, you are a fucking idiot. What is wrong with you? Like why, how many times do you have to do this to realize this is a terrible idea?
Let go. Hey, okay, I know I'm here to stay. Counting on my wins, so I can't play it safe. Trying to go against us, get you out the way. Go hard, it's the only way to play. Let me say, I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Sportsing.
Yes.
I'm your girl, Glory Govan.
I'm Erica Lynn O'Keefe.
And today we have someone that has, honestly, like if you think a cat has 9 lives, our guest has 12.
Yeah.
My man has been through some shit, y'all. And he is here to give us all of the ins, the outs, the beautiful, the ugly, and the whole 9. Please, everybody, welcome our guy, our guest, Charlie Engle.
Woo!
That's us. We always enter the clap.
I'm even going to clap for myself after that.
Clap
Like,
for
that was
yourself.
You have. I know.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. This is a highlight, so this is a lot of fun. It's my day started with a run, which doesn't surprise anybody that knows me, but the reasons may be different though. It's not always about like I just need that physical movement to start my day.
And what time do you get started normally when you go for your runs?
Today was 6:30, but I am not that old guy that gets up super early and does that shit. Like I sleep as long as, it's a nice thing about having my own business and my life. Like I'm not getting up at 5:30 to go for runs unless it's absolutely necessary. So I like exercising in the morning though. I think it makes the rest of the day better. Then if I get to like have another walk or go to the gym later in the day, it feels like bonus.
Love it.
Here
So
for that.
I know you know something about working out too.
A little bit. I love to be. The gym does do some things for me. It's gotten to a point now where even my kids and my husband are like, "Have you worked out today?" It's almost like a nap, right? Like, have you worked out? Correct. Bye.
I'm for the nap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm team nap.
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah,
By the time this talk is over,
I'm trying to get my shit together.
You'll be walking.
I am a January 1 person. Okay.
Okay,
Come January
all
1,
right.
I'm back in the gym. I'm doing the thing. I'm going to have my shit together for about 3 months, and then we'll figure it out from there.
All right.
I love that.
So
But you do have.
I'm gonna put you on speed dial for April then.
Yes.
There you go.
And then
See where we're
I
at.
got, I
Check
got
that,
you.
and then you got
I got
me.
you.
That's what I needed.
Yeah.
Just in time for
Accountability,
somebody.
and I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have an incredible story. We want to kind of start back and whatnot. For you, when did you first recognize that you had like an addictive personality, and kind of how did that lead you to where you ended up?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, I grew up, I think, like a lot of people, as a pleaser of sorts. I was an only child, and growing up in North Carolina, and my parents were 18, and my dad was actually playing basketball at University of North Carolina for Dean
Nice.
Smith back in the day. So his first couple of years of coaching back then, and but he left my life like really early on. They got divorced, and he went in the Army, and that sort of began this. I think this building of an identity around being a survivor. Like you start building your own story around who you are and why you behave certain ways. And I found sports in high school, and like that saved me for a while.
Oh, good.
I really I loved it. There was nothing better than being on a team.
What was your sport?
Man, when I got into it, I kind of did everything. I did that
good,
thing
yeah.
where like, two sport, cross country and football, at the same time. And like back then you could kind of get away with that even in high school. Then I wrestled 1 year, terrible idea, and played basketball at the same time, and then baseball and track in the spring. And of course, eventually like with most, you kind of figure out what you're good at
Yeah,
and
what
what
works.
you also enjoy. I actually ended up doing more of what I enjoyed than what I was good at, which is always that complicated thing as a parent and as a
Mhm.
like where would you push your kid towards the things they're great at or what they love to do?
Ooh, yeah.
All
So
right.
what were the two? What were you good at? What
Well,
did you?
I was a really good runner. So, I
Okay.
mean, running was from a very early age, running was my thing.
Okay.
But I loved basketball. I was,
Oh.
I was like 6 feet tall, which is what I am now at 12 years old, but I weighed probably 110 pounds. So
Wet,
like,
soaking
Yeah.
wet.
so
Yeah.
like running,
Yeah.
I was a good runner though.
Yeah.
I could kind of like fly and I enjoyed that. But running was not nearly as interesting to girls at the time. So basketball and football, if I could go back and do it again, I would remove myself from football for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
But basketball is still, I mean, it's still the thing I love.
You still
So
got a shot? Like, what's going on
I
over
still
there?
got a great shot.
Okay,
Yeah.
so our
Yeah,
next
we're
one, we're
gonna-
going
yeah,
one-on-one,
totally.
1v1, 2v1.
At a very minimum, some horse.
Okay,
There you go.
There you go.
Right?
That's fair.
So,
I could do a good game of
yeah,
horse.
yeah. But to answer your question though, I got to college at UNC Chapel Hill, and I really just found out that I was, I'd been a good athlete and a good student and all these other things. But you get to college and like you're average. Like you're average. You're an average person. Like everybody's got a good resume and whatever. And I found at that time, this is 1980, so it's been a minute, but like the drinking age was 18 years old, and I'm like, yeah, yes. And like I became that guy that we all know who, there was just never really a time when there wasn't a social thing happening that I didn't have a beer or a drink in my hand of some kind. And like, that sort of began the process of, there wasn't addiction necessarily at that point, but it certainly was an inability to control my behavior.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You talked about having an awesome mom, though, before we dive into what
Yeah.
what role, being a single mom, what
Yeah.
role did she play throughout your life, but more specifically in your early stages of life, prior to being awesome?
I had an answer like in my head, and like it just flew out
Oh,
because
shit.
the
We'll
one,
come
no,
back.
no, the right one actually came in.
Oh.
You prep in your brain what you're gonna say, and my mom was that person that everybody needs in their life, that it did not matter. If I went to my mom, I could tell her the truth about everything. And I would go to her and say, here's what I'm thinking of doing. And she'd be like, oh, Charlie, that's such an amazing idea. You're going to be so good at that. No, but I mean, she was that person that always was there to support me. And I like to say that despite her like super liberal feelings and she was a playwright and an actress and civil rights and gay rights activist, and this is the 60s when I was a kid, and she taught me though, like how to think, not what to think. And I think a lot of parents confuse the two things and think that their opinion is what they have to teach their kids without allowing the kids to really come to any kind of a conclusion on their own. I mean, if we're guiding and if we're telling a good story as parents, the kids will come to a natural conclusion of doing the right thing. And I talk a lot in sobriety about attraction over promotion. Like if especially as a parent, if you're behaving in a certain way and it does not match the words that you're telling your kids, they sense that bullshit out in like a second,
Fast.
right?
They're
Go
smart.
out and you got to get exercise. Meanwhile, you're on the sofa eating chips, I mean, that's not the answer. But my mom was just always that. She was that presence in my life that, I knew no matter how badly I screwed up, and I did some big
Crazy
ones.
shit.
She was the person that would not criticize and would tell me she's, still loves me no matter what. And I think that it allowed me some grace in times where I didn't feel like I was getting it from anybody else.
Understood.
Yeah.
Which is necessary.
Right.
And then so when you got into sports and like kind of, was it around high school age when you first got
It
into
was,
it?
yeah.
What led you down that path?
Yeah, I mean, my parents are divorced, so I moved in with my father, and I wanted to please my dad, of course. He'd played basketball at Carolina. So I go to Carolina actually to play football, which is funny. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
pretty clear.
not shocking at
You
all.
know, so
For sure.
because I looked pretty much the same. So I was a very slow-footed quarterback, but I went to practice on day one, and I watched guys who were 300 pounds run into each other, and I'm like, hell no.
Nope.
I'm not doing that.
Not for me.
But I went out for the basketball team at Carolina
Nice.
in 1981 because, why not?
Yeah,
You know,
fuck
it
it.
was an audacious thing. And I actually made the JV basketball team. And Roy Williams was the coach of the JV team back then. And Dean Smith was still the varsity coach. And this guy named Michael Jordan shows up the next year.
Some guy.
Right.
It's random.
And so I got a chance to actually be, on the court with him
Oh,
for a
shit.
couple of years, because that's part of being even in the JV program, and a lot of off season and summer league stuff. And it was a fun time to be around not just him, but James Worthy and Sam Perkins and Lawrence Taylor, the football player, was also at Carolina at the same time. And
Oh.
he was, a well-known, linebacker and went on, into the NFL. And so, I know you guys relate to this in a way too. Being around greatness does actually help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it didn't stop me from doing a lot of cocaine in college and a lot of drinking. You could only be part of the JV program for 2 years. And when that ended, I kind of didn't have any constraints anymore and, pretty much just drank and drugged my way out of college at 22. And went on about my very, very hard business for about a decade.
Wow.
It took a long time to get that. Well, it doesn't ever get under control. It took a long time to turn the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've said, you shouldn't hide or try to kill the, addict in you. Instead, maybe facing him face to face. And how is that? What has that process been like? What the fuck?
Yeah, thank you. I love that
Shit.
question. No, I love the question. And look, it's a combination of, and I like to be really honest about this part of my story because when I got sober finally at 29 years old, I ran a lot. And some of it was a combination of I felt really good physically, like to be free of the burden of drugs and alcohol, but I also was able to sort of punish myself, running is a way to almost instantaneously bring yourself physical discomfort. Like it's not hard to do. So it was a combination of things. When I would go out for a run, I would sort of force myself into that place of being deeply anaerobic. But I also my years of addiction, there's not a single street level addict that could keep up with me. I had that endurance gene in me, and actually through testing later on, I discovered there is such a thing. I do quite literally have, an endurance gene.
Same.
Doesn't mean that that's for sports. It's actually endurance is endurance,
Sure,
period. And so
regardless.
whether it was, drugs and alcohol or running or another sport or whatever, what I discovered was I was really good at perseverance. And when that thing for most people hits, and the same thing is true with drugs, when that moment of where it's obvious to anybody within 100 miles you should stop, I would just double down and keep going. And that was a thing that I thought I needed to get rid of early on in my sobriety. I thought that addictive nature was killing me, when in fact I figured out finally that the obsessive part of my personality, if you want to get good at shit,
Yeah, you got to be obsessed.
with the balance is what people talk about all the time. Oh, you need balance in your life. I'm like, why? Okay, yes, you can't ignore your family, and you have to have some work, personal life balance. But in general, if you want to master something, it's what you think of when you wake up in the morning, and it's probably the last thing you're thinking of when you're going to bed at night. And whether it's a business or it's a personal thing or it's athletics, you're thinking about that thing and how can I get better? And that sort of obsession, there's not a single successful person that any of us knows that obsession isn't part of their success.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, but would you consider that running was at maybe in the beginning, like you were running away from essentially dealing with yourself, like having a, really turning internal to go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like this is so, and then it became an obsession, and then you became really good at it. You ran across the Sahara. This man has basically gone over to Everest, and we'll talk about the 5.8 method, in a minute. But like, it had to. At what point did you say to yourself, look in the mirror and go, enough?
Yeah. You know what's interesting though about running for me, and I made a commitment when I got sober. My son had been born, my first son, and like I knew that I wanted. You can't get sober for other people.
Right.
You just can't. Like even like kids or whatever, like people try to do that all the time. And eventually it comes back to you having to make the decision for yourself that this is the right thing for me and it will benefit everybody else in my life. But with running, what I figured out very early on is I actually enjoyed the self-imposed suffering. Like it was controllable suffering, because most suffering in life is not in our control.
Right.
Relationships, jobs, disease, death. I mean, all the bad things that can happen in your life. They're not necessarily bad. They're just things. We can't control those. And so what I learned early on is the more often I do hard things on purpose, that I put myself in a position where I'm going to do something that I'm probably going to want to quit, like running a marathon or running 100 miles or doing some whatever. Like there's going to be a point where I am literally self-talking and saying, you are a fucking idiot. What is wrong with you? Like why, how many times do you have to do this to realize this is a terrible idea? But the point is that's a tiny moment. I mean, shit, parenthood's like that.
every
there's
day.
plenty of moments where I'm like, these two kids, and I'm looking at them thinking to myself, how did I get myself into this?
We say it all the time. I'm
what
like,
do I do
have
with them?
kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Yeah.
God, bullshit.
Yeah, because there's never, I can quit running.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't quit feeding the kids or
Right.
taking care. I mean, you
shouldn't,
can,
at
but
least.
Right,
like
exactly,
you shouldn't.
exactly.
Don't do that.
Right?
Don't quit
Yeah,
the
don't
kids.
do
Okay?
that.
Don't
But
quit the
like,
kids.
and so the idea of chosen hardship with the understanding that if I can learn how to get through those moments when I don't want to keep doing this, whatever it is, that will serve me when the things that come out of the blue hit me, because those things do happen. I'm going to jump ahead, but like my wife, we've been married 11 years, almost 12 in January, and 3 years into our marriage, she got cancer, and like she's still got it. 9 years later, my job at home when I'm home is full-time caretaker. Like I have other businesses, I have things that I do, but like that's what I do. And she was a phenomenal professional beach volleyball player and runner and rock climber and all these things. And now for the last 9 years, we don't get to do any of the things that we got married to do. And like so you kind of don't, I really mean it when I say the hardship I had faced before, the Sahara, other stuff, going to prison. I had a bunch of shit happen. Like all of those things actually prepared me to be able to handle most of the time, my current situation. And so I just think I think too many people, we chase comfort too much, and comfort, if I ask the two of you, you can say it or not say it, like what's the most formative thing that's ever happened in your life that like makes you who you are? It's not whatever that thing that just popped into your mind. It's not like the easy thing that happened.
Right,
It's not
right.
I won the lottery like that. No, it's like
Some
the
fucked up
death
shit.
of a heart of an important person, or like whatever that thing
This
might be.
challenge,
Like,
yeah.
so that hardship is what we are better for those things, even if they hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do it sometimes on purpose, it can teach you how to get past those other times.
I love that. I'm curious to know what the difference and impact for you was, because you kind of briefly talked about loving the idea of team sports, right? And being around other people. But I imagine it's hard to hide when you're, when you're on a team, right?
Yeah.
You can't really hide when it's 5 for other people depending on you to do something. But when you're running, it's just you.
Yeah.
For you, what was kind of the difference? And then ultimately, how did that kind of lead you to go, let me just lean into this running thing? You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to kind of what camaraderie, I guess, could bring from a team
Man, it's
standpoint?
such a great question because the last thing I want to think of myself as is not a good team player.
Mm.
But the reality is, I really loved being self-reliant. I mean, a lot of people that do individual sports, you're still part of the track team, but like nobody else, could run the mile for me. And like, it didn't matter. Like I was out there alone running against other people and my teammates were cheering for me and like I wanted to do well. I loved that. And in football was a funny sport. Like we had a terrible, terrible football team in high school and I was a really marginal quarterback, but I had some skills. Like I had some skills, but I had a team that arguably we were just not good. So I basically spent my time running for my life, like all the time,
Anyway, yeah.
just trying not to die.
Don't get
And
hit.
like,
Yeah.
concussion after concussion
yeah.
and like, you just got your bell rung. You'll be okay. Go
Yeah.
back in the game, and all of that. And I somewhere along the line, I just sort of recognized that, that I wanted to do individual stuff. And even later, and it's way too long a story, but I started doing races like called the Eco Challenge, which are team sports. But as adults, you're doing something crazy. For 10 days, you're running, biking, equestrian, navigating, ocean rowing, mountaineering. You're doing all these things as a team of 4, and you have to stay together all the time, no matter what. So, like most team sports, you're only as fast as your slowest person. So the goal isn't to be fast. The goal is to get the person who's suffering and struggling the most in that moment, to get them to be able to keep up, take their pack, take their weight. And I mean, it's a good metaphor for life, right? Yeah. Very often we stand on the sideline and say, didn't you prepare for this? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you having such a bad day? That doesn't help. When you're in the shit, whether it's your business or your family, that kind of criticism, even though we all do it, just doesn't help. Instead, it's like, how can I lighten your load? So the team aspect of that did teach me a lot, but it also taught me that like, I was in races where I probably was overestimating my own talent, but I was in events where there'd be 100 teams in the race and we'd finish 40th. And I'm like, well, shit, if I was on a better team, I would have been the top 10. I don't know if that was actually true, but that's how I felt.
Right.
And so eventually I found my way to ultra distance running. So like anything like 100 miles and longer, what I figured out about myself is the longer the race, the better I did. And there was something built in me that allowed me to reach that moment where I wanted to quit. And instead of giving into it, and I think this is actually a real tip for life that I feel like is a pretty good one for most people. The metaphor, you have to fill in the blanks yourself. But like in a 100-mile race, I've been in races of 100 miles long where at mile 33, like the wheels have come off. I am like crawling on the trail and like puking in the bushes. And it's like, and all I can think is, I have 67 miles to go. How am I going to do this? And the trick that I learned early on though was, no, I've got 3 miles till the next checkpoint. And when I get there, I'm going to do the things that I know how to do that my experience has taught me. I'm going to eat 1,000 calories. I'm going to drink, 3 cups of whatever. I'm going to get some salt in my body. I'm going to walk for a little while. And, whatever was going on is going to go from like a 10 to maybe just an 8, but I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be able to keep moving.
Right.
And I think people quit too soon. They leave marriages, they quit jobs, they stop doing races. There's not really a lot at stake. You can quit a race and it might hurt your feelings or whatever, but like that's it. And it doesn't mean in the other parts of your life, like relationships and jobs, that you're not going to quit those, but doing it in an emotional moment where you're just empty and you're like, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore. That's not the time to do it. Wait. And, try to make a decision that's clear-headed. So that's what running like that has taught me. I mean, it's the inherent lesson that's built in there.
Yeah, you have the 5.8 method. Can you
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that? Because it speaks to your highs and your lows,
Yeah.
in life. And obviously being an ultra runner, I can't even imagine like how you've been able to calculate, what's been your highest, what's been your lowest in comparison to all of your accomplishments. But you have two specific moments that really define your 5.8
Yeah,
method.
thanks
What
for
are
asking
they?
that. You know what's funny is too, highs and lows, they occupy such a little bit of our lives, right? I mean, the super highs, like don't go buy a new car if you got a big raise. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be back down here probably.
Right.
Like, give it a minute. We spend most of our life kind of in that safe middle ground, I think. But I was actually, it's a whole nother story that like we don't have time for it today probably, but I'm literally in prison as a sober person. Like this is 15 years ago. And crazy thing that happened. I didn't kill anybody or anything. Like, I wanted to. No, I'm just kidding.
Been there.
But, but I recognized that this was a low point for me. And I had this idea of like putting a literal spin on the metaphor, which is to go from the lowest point on Earth, which is the Dead Sea, to the top of Mount Everest. And that's about 4,500 miles from the lowest to the highest. But if you stack it on top of each other, it's actually only 5.8 miles. Like literally from the lowest place on the planet to the highest is less than a 10K. And I just started playing with this idea of, we are all in this together. I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, like we have borders and, we want to keep people out and others in, and the whole world is going through this thing right now. But, we're all surrounded by this tiny little sliver of atmosphere that we share, like it or not. And mentally, it helped me just sort of embrace the fact that spending my time being angry at this group of people or that group, or even around politics and stuff, which I generally just don't talk because it's pretty pointless. You have to have passion and you have to have things that drive you and that you stand for, but it can't always be about driving yourself to these low places and high points. So in January of 2027, so about a little over a year from now, I'll be standing on the shore of the Dead Sea in Jordan, getting ready to start this big adventure and running all the way across the Arabian desert and sailing across the Indian Ocean, mountain biking across India, and then climbing Mount Everest at the end.
Insane.
Yeah. So
What does preparation for something like that look
Yeah.
like?
What?
life.
Okay.
I mean, honestly,
My whole
what-
life.
it's a great question. Like, so I'm 63 years old. I'll be 64 when I do this. And someone asked me recently, it's like, oh, well, you're going to prove, to all the old people that you can
Scandalous.
do this. I'm like, well, first, fuck you.
Okay. Hello.
Just let's get that out of the way. Second, I'm not doing it despite my age.
Sure.
I'm actually able to do it because of my age. Like, I have experience. I understand pacing. What my life looks like. 20 years ago, I was overtrained all the time.
Oh.
And as athletes, and you guys talk to athletes all the time, it's a common thing.
Yes.
Like, I've got to prepare. And that preparing usually means harder work. One of the cool things that's happened in recent years, and it definitely fits for me, is this idea of recovery. So I am like, my number one priority in life from a physiological standpoint is sleep. My number two priority is sleep. Like, seriously. Number three is like hydration. Number four, because that's underrated. People tend to lump it in with, nutrition. And like when we drink, what we drink, how we drink, the times, like all of that really, really matters. And also understanding your own physiology. Whatever the recommendation is by the USDA, do we still have one of those? Never mind. Is like, it's just idiotic, like 8 glasses of whatever. Okay, so that's good for like the 100-pound person and for the 300-pound. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I encourage people all the time, get blood work done. I mean, especially if you have insurance, like find out what your starting point is so that you can figure out where you need to go.
Yeah.
So training is probably number 5. Number 6, I already know how to run. I already know how to bike. And because this isn't mine is a almost 5-month expedition, that it's not like training for an Ironman where you're trying to peak for one day or the big game where you're really trying to be ready just for that one moment in time. Like for mine, it's like a really slow motion death. And so I have to try to find a way to keep my body alive, like every day.
Yeah.
And, if I can do that, then I'll find a way to be, successful. Yeah.
So at 29, when you got sober, and that was when, what was the change point then? Like, what was the thing that was like, okay, no,
We're done.
Police. No.
that'll do it.
That was part of it. No, you know what? And again, so I didn't have kids yet at that point, and I'd been to rehab, I'd been to church, I'd been to a shaman. Like I had really tried what I felt like was everything to quit. Like I'd gone to AA. I was very relieved when I went into AA that like I thought early on, I totally misunderstood the purpose of it. I'm like, I'm just here to like drinking is really screwing up my drug use and I need to figure out how to balance these things. Like, I mean, I do make jokes about it, but I think that literally is what was going on in my head is I just, if I can just get this under control and in the right balance, people will stop bugging me, because I was making a mess of things. So my wife got pregnant. Like, how dare she? And I recognized in that moment I was certainly not prepared to be a father, but I was 29 years old, and his birth was going to like shift everything for me. I was magically just going to be sober and a
That was
great
the
dad.
assumption?
Exactly. Like that's what I thought. And for a couple months, I did that. Like I was dad of the year, as if a baby cares what dad thinks anyway. But, a couple months into his life, I found myself deep in the hood, smoking crack and drinking and spending 6 days, on this near-death experience of a binge where I kind of didn't care if I died. Like I didn't sleep for 6 days and I didn't eat for 6 days. And it was just one of those. And that ended with me, handcuffed on the ground and watching the police search my car. And there's bullet holes in the car from, people shooting at me, not the car. And I just recognized that something had to change, and I had this bolt of lightning moment in a way. It's not the first time this scenario had played out in my life, of course, but that time was different because it was the first time that I had a son, and it did matter, and I knew I didn't want to die. And I had this like epiphany that's so cliche in a way, but the words like nobody's coming to save you popped into my head. And it was the recognition that so many people supported me and wanted the best for me. And I had been so afraid to let go of my crutch, which was drinking and drugs and that fear of not being able to do those things anymore. And I was able to just let it go in that moment. And the only religion I had growing up was Southern Baptist with my grandparents. So I pretty much knew I was screwed from like the time I was 5. I'm like, just for my thoughts.
Right.
Like I knew I was in trouble.
Right.
So
Oh,
I didn't
shit.
have a lot of like, prayer or that sort of spiritual base in my life. But I said a prayer, in that moment, which was actually pretty simple. I just said, I just want this burden lifted. Like all my prayers before, just to be clear, a lot of Santa Claus prayers, a lot of, if you'll get me out of this
Right. I
mess I've
swear I will
created,
never-
then
yeah.
I'm going to make some changes. It wasn't that. I didn't ask for anything. I just said, look, I just don't want to feel this way anymore. And I'm not saying it was like suddenly gone, but like it gave me the knowledge and ability to go to a meeting that night, get up the next day and go for a run. And then like for the next 3 years, I did those two things every single day for 3 years as the foundation of my life, even recognizing that like my kids did not come first. My AA meetings and my running came first. And my wife gave me enough grace to understand without those things, I wasn't going to be around to be a dad. Like, me as a dad drinking and using was not a useful person. And so her support of me, we ended up we stayed married, 13 years total. And we're still like, I love her to death still to this day. And like, we have an amazing relationship, but And I probably wouldn't have gotten sober, without her support. When you help someone else grow, there's no guarantee that they're growing in the same direction you are.
Right.
Yeah.
So her helping me grow I got married when I was deep in addiction. Like I needed a caretaker. I needed someone to look after me and call my boss and say, Charlie doesn't feel great today. Like he can't come in. Like I needed that person. Then when I got sober, it's like magically like, wow, I don't need that person anymore. Who am I married to?
Right.
And I loved her as the mother of my kids, but I wasn't in love with her. Maybe I wasn't ever. I don't know. But like I also recognize that the example we were setting for our kids of a basically non-loving, not that we were nice to each other, but we were like roommates. Like that we weren't teaching our kids how to have a loving partnership. And, the best thing to do, was to part company. So I still give her like all the gratitude for, helping me find, a path that she wanted very much for me, but, she wasn't necessarily happy about, us parting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No,
difficult after all of that. And
Right.
so
That journey.
then as a father, and because you have how many kids?
2 boys.
2 boys.
Yep.
How do you talk to the kids? How did you introduce some of this conversation with the boys? Because obviously you're public speaking and all that, and then whatever experience they may have had of you. I know they were pretty young when you were still kind of coming out of the addiction, but how do you have that conversation with them?
Well, I try to be really real and open when I'm having a conversation, and this is a really fun one. So thank you. My kids, I have a great relationship with both boys, and they are going with me on my Dead Sea to Mount Everest
nice.
expedition. So they're 30 and 33 right now, and because I got slapped in the face, a few years ago, because I thought, not totally mistakenly, that I was the cooler dad, out of a lot of them, I mean, all my friends who, they're my kids' friends who had dads who were accountants and whatever, like my existence seemed a little more interesting, right?
Sure.
And my kids were proud of me for my sobriety, for running the Sahara, for all these other things. But you know what? They sat me down and they said, we wish you had been around more, and that was like, it was a big, important moment for 2 reasons. Number one, that they had the confidence and courage to actually say those words to me, not in a hurtful way. They weren't trying to hurt my feelings, but they were trying to like tell me, this is what we missed. And this is, we still want that. And so this doesn't make up for everything, but the recognition that taking them along on this journey with me and having them out there running and biking and doing whatever parts of it they want to do, but helping to support and spending, probably haven't spent 5 months with my kids. I mean, that's another thing about having kids. When you actually add up, especially for a lot of, whoever the primary parent is, they get a lot more time with the kids. The other one tends to like be, if you add up the time, like it's not that
teacher.
much.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And you kind of get all the glory without a lot of the hard work.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to like heal, some of those things. And to, I mean, I'm a man. Yeah, I love to hug, and my kids are, I think I kissed both of my boys till they were probably pretty far into high school, and and they never, and I actually count this as a real win on my part. Not once did they ever tell me not to, ever.
Yeah, that's
so
huge.
like even in front of their friends and whatever else, there was always that hug and a kiss, and it was really, I'm grateful that they allowed me to have that time.
Yeah,
Beautiful thing. And that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, no,
experience.
that 5-month journey is going to be wild. I can't wait to
wanna
like hear
come?
about it. I was going to say,
I've got
well,
slots
you know,
open.
I do in parts.
So
I mean, I got a tribe though. Exactly. I'll meet you at the top.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
they
With a
can come.
helicopter
They can
in,
come. Well, that's the unfortunate joke that I make that my kids do not appreciate is the fact that Mount Everest. Don't people die? I'm like, yeah, but unfortunately, the vast majority actually die on the way down.
Oh, wow.
And it's
I
the
didn't know that.
truth. It's
Yeah.
kind of I mean, I always say it's kind of a metaphor for life. You know, sometimes
Headed down. Yeah.
we push too hard and we reach whatever pinnacle is at the sacrifice of everything else in our lives, only to recognize that, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to make it back down, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
There's two things, staying on the dad front, but I also want to know why you were sad after you ran the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
But staying in the dad front, just very quickly, what was your biggest fear? Like, you know, normally addiction is an inherited trait and characteristic. Were you afraid that your boys were going to inherit that from you? And how did you, you know, mitigate and navigate that
I'm smiling
fear?
and laughing, not because it's funny, but because to think that we have control over anything,
Fair.
like genetically or whatever else with our kids. My older son, the one that I've been talking about, like his path in addiction was preordained and it was going to happen. And at 15 years old, after being in a sober household for his whole life, you know, he tried heroin for the first time. And this was a 10-year path of me as a terrified parent, like everybody else in that situation, recognizing how little control I actually had over being able to like save him. And so I actually couldn't. I literally at some point I had to like let him go. I had to go to him and say, you got to do what you got to do. If this is the path you're on, I'm not going to pay your bills. I'm not going to get you out of jail. I'm not going to do these things. Like I will help you the minute you ask me for help, like whatever that looks like. But like, you just got to do this. And if it means I lose you, like even that, like I had to be willing as a parent to accept the fact that that was out of my control. And once I let go of that, what I recognized is my other son, you know, who he makes jokes that should be his name, the other son, you know, because my older son sucked up all the oxygen in the world, you know, for his mom and I for many years. Our focus was on keeping him alive. Meanwhile, Kevin's over here like going, hello, like, you know, need some new shoes here.
Right.
Right?
Anybody?
Because he just made good grades and got, you know, graduated with honors from college and went into the Peace Corps. And like, he's just that kid who just finds the right path he's not a, you know, goody two shoes, but like, he's just he just does his thing. You know, we talk, you know, once a month, even today, like he and I talk maybe once every couple of weeks. And I talk to my older son every day.
Yeah.
Like, so the needs and whatever are just different.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a ton of fear around it. But again, the recognition, and I tell parents this all the time. I know you want to try to control the outcome, but you can't.
Yeah.
You got to focus on what's going on right now today. Like, and in particular, I tell young people all the time, try not to get so focused on your 5 and 10 and 20-year plan that you know, all you see is failure if you don't, you know, achieve
Reach
those
those,
things, right? Focus on the miles that are right in front of you. And if you run those miles, you get to run tomorrow's miles, right? I mean, it's more complicated than that, but not much more.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, just being present, you know, as a mom, I'm constantly like, you know, putting up the bumpers. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, come this way.
You
But
feel
it's wild.
like a good mom?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Good.
No, I'm a good mom. Like, I know that for sure.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
all of us, we have a blended family. So
Yeah.
all 5, we have a good crew right there.
Yeah.
But it's hard as shit
Yeah.
because all of them are different. And you try to mitigate one feeling like one is more important than the other. And that's really difficult to do, especially in a blended family. But we have, you know, what I say all the time to parents is you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know it all, but what I can offer them is what I've experienced. And I've experienced some shit. So I say to them all the time. I just told my other son just the other day because he was rummaging through my stuff looking for my ID. And I go, why are you in my room? And he's like, oh, I was running out of deodorant. And I was like, sir, I'm going to let you think that I'm stupid for 0.7 seconds. But, you know, it's just funny that they kind of play you in that way a little bit. But no, it's shit is hard.
Well, and I think that's a mark of good parenting because if your kids aren't challenging you, if they're not, you know, trying to like get away with some stuff, like whatever, then
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's wild. I mean, and speaking of feelings, we asked a little bit earlier, but I'd love to touch a little bit more on it. Is your that the Sahara was a huge accomplishment for you, but when
Yeah.
you finished it,
Oh, yeah.
you were sad. Like,
Yeah, I
why?
was, and
What
it,
is
and
that
it and
feeling
it was so
about?
unexpected. I
Yeah.
got a question, from I had an interview on NPR, and like the softball question of all time, like how does it feel to be done? Like the answer should have been relieved. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like, it's so
woohoo.
fantastic, and the recognition though instantaneously that like it was over.
Oh,
I mean, it probably is like, your kids going off to college or whatever. There was an ending to it that I didn't expect emotionally, where 2 full years of my life, every minute of every day practically had been devoted to this big expedition, from funding to partners to training to all of it. And it was over. Like it was over. And I could have turned around and gone back, across the desert. Certainly didn't want to. And it would have been entirely different. Like you can't
Yeah.
recreate that. And I think what it is, I think it is a thing that I thought about this just recently. I think we all, and we recognize this in young people because it's really easy to see, but we kind of all spend our lives chasing firsts, like a first experience, whether it's a relationship or a job or a car or a marathon or whatever. People tell me they ran one marathon, check that off the box.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. You don't know shit about marathons. Like, you need to do 3, because the second time you enter one, you know how hard it is, yet you're choosing to do it again. And like by the 3rd time, you're like, okay, I actually want to understand more about why I'm doing this and what I hope to get out of it.
yeah.
And that's why I'm not a bucket list person. I'm not debating people who do that, but very often just checking things off the list doesn't give you an understanding of why you did it or what you got out of it. But in that moment, I recognized the biggest cliche in the world. It's the journey, not the destination, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it had been that
100%.
2-year journey that mattered, and getting to the finish was so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
My
'Cause it
feet
just was
hurt
over.
mostly.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
what's going on? It's like, can somebody
I
get
need some
some
new socks.
pancakes?
Yes.
Like, I really want pancakes and French toast. Like, that's what I want.
Really quickly, for our audience who doesn't know exactly what
Yeah.
the run was, can you just kind of summarize
Yeah,
kind of what
so
it was, what the experience was?
I thought it would be a good idea to run all the way across the Sahara Desert,
Which is
was closer to 5,000 miles actually than some of the published numbers, but that's because I got lost a lot. But I'm just kidding. I'm not totally kidding. But,
Right. He's like, kind of, not
Right,
kind of.
just like,
but,
no.
but basically, myself and 2 teammates ran 2 marathons every day for 111 consecutive days across Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Libya, and Egypt,
Oh,
all
my
the way to
gosh.
the Red Sea. So we were the first people to ever run all the way across Africa, and like it was a big deal. And I would tell you that I had all kinds of grand reasons of the whys, and like none of them actually held true afterwards, which is why these days I never answer why questions. Like, why for Dead Sea to Everest? Ask me afterwards. I'll be able to tell you what the reason was that I actually ended up doing it. But the other part of the Sahara was, more than anything, just seeing if it was possible. I mean, I think too often we get caught up in all the other stuff and not realizing that it's important sometimes to just try to do something that you aren't sure you can do.
Yeah. just saying,
And
why
have that
not?
fear inside you that you're not going to be enough in this moment is an exciting. When I got sober, you know what I thought? My fucking life is going to be so boring now.
Boring.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I thought alcohol and drugs were bringing
yeah,
the
keeping you-
excitement,
Yeah.
and instead it opened everything up. The Sahara opened a lot of doors. It did some amazing things. Matt Damon was my partner, and he was the executive producer of the project. He narrated the film about it, and together we started a clean water nonprofit that today is known as water.org, and it's the world's largest clean water nonprofit. And thanks for the applause, but it's also like not I got to do the perfect thing. I did the selfish thing, which was I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I got to do the selfless thing.
Right.
And it was the exact
Greatest,
same thing. They weren't two separate things.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to run a marathon for Alzheimer's." I'm like, "Okay." I
Sure.
appreciate
Right.
what you're saying,
Great.
and I love your heart.
Mm-hmm.
But remember that you are the greatest cause that you have.
Sure.
And if you're not constantly working to improve yourself, you can't be of service to other people.
100%.
And so it's okay to selfishly say, you know what? I'm going to train for this thing and I'm going to do it. And I hope you guys will support me and love me through this. I might be hungry sometimes or like whatever. And like, I'm going to do it. And like, that's the important. And then you get to make an impact on other people. And so the clean water was just a awesome side effect of choosing to do something hard.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you talked about like after the Sahara a little bit about it was over. What happens when you hang up your, your running shoes? Is there a fear?
You mean
for
like in my life now
in your
today?
life? Yeah, like when you kind of.
Why am I
when you
doing
st-
that?
Right.
Do you?
No, I know. I'm
you know,
kidding,
yeah.
but
Like, does the
there may
adventure kind
be a
of ever
day.
end?
There may
Okay.
be a day. I got a new hip 2 years ago.
Fuck yeah, you
like
did.
the good news is I'm finding out there's a lot of parts that are replaceable.
Yeah.
Who knew? Right? So
Exactly.
I mean, what I understand is I do love to run, but I also love being on a bike. I love sailing. I love rowing. Nature will never, terrible grammar, nature will never not be a part of my life. And so people assume I love to run. I do this to audiences all the time. I'm like, I'll say, it doesn't matter how big the audience is. Raise your hand if you hate running. 90% of the audience raises their hand if they're being honest. Right? And I'm like, oh, so you hate like birds and nature and fresh air?
No.
Correct.
Right.
So you hate life. That's
right.
great.
So
Yeah.
you
It's
hate how
wild.
running makes you feel.
Right.
And I do tell this story often. It's super short, but like we love to run as kids, and then we get to middle school and we get a PE teacher who
Right.
uses running as punishment,
Yes.
or a basketball coach who
Oh, yeah,
we're running
17s.
lines
Yeah.
all the
Yes.
time, and like and that teaches us actually to not like running. So you do have to reframe. As an adult, you have to reframe your relationship with physical movement. And mostly that means slow down, because who are you? Like, why are you? If you go out for a run right now, like you did raise your hand, if you don't like to run, or you think you don't like to run, if you were to go out for 2 miles and you walked, and then you ran 100 yards, and then you walked some more, you ran 100, and you finished that like half an hour or hour, however long it takes, and you feel energized and amazing, and you're outside and your brain's working, like you don't hate running, but you might hate it if you're trying to go. We still want to run like we're 15 years old, right? And that's
True.
just not
Right.
That's not happening.
Yeah,
Right.
no, baby,
No.
at
So,
40, it is
yeah.
not happening. Okay. Okay, so as we kind of get to the wind down, I would love two things. One, if you were talking to younger self and younger self were to ask you a question, what's the answer you'd hope to be able to give them now?
Man, it's such a hard question, and I didn't know you were going to ask that. So I'm going to do what I always do and say the crazy thing that came to my head. I would say, because I've even up until several years ago, which I guess that still makes me my younger self.
There you
I was that person who, if there's 10 people in a room and 9 of them love me, because I build really good, strong relationships, but that other person doesn't like me and I know it, who do I end up spending my time
one
focusing
person.
on? That one fucker
Right.
who
Back of the room,
I'm going to
dickhead.
make them
Yeah.
like me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mhm.
I do
Absolutely.
not do that shit anymore. And I'm not saying I'm rude to them. I don't do anything, but I don't. Why?
Yeah.
There's no point. Love the people that love you, and I would tell myself to stop trying to make everybody happy all the time and just be yourself and be, as well as you know how to be yourself. I mean, aren't we all still trying to figure that out?
Sure.
Every day.
That was exactly
But
all
for
the time.
sure, don't try to like turn those people into your favor, because it just isn't worth the lost time with the people who are already there for you.
Sure. I
That
love it.
was, yeah, No, I appreciate that. Yeah, legit. I'm like, and mic drop. I mean, we do, wrap up a little bit with some rapid fire questions,
boy.
that we are. It's more sports related though. So
Okay, good.
easy.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
exactly.
This is
God.
easy
Right.
sports stuff.
Easiest questions you've had.
We want to know
Tar Heels.
We want to.
Okay, sorry, just had to jump in there.
Basketball.
So
in
let's
case you
start
didn't
with
ask me
college.
that.
Do you still follow Tar Heels? Do you follow football, college basketball, football? Any
Like
of
a
that?
stalker.
Really?
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Kidding
go into
me?
tent and all-
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
okay.
live in Durham, and I always
Sure.
tell people when I live in Durham, North Carolina, I'm like, I do not cheer for that team, and we all know
Who
of
that
which I
team
speak.
is.
So
Yes.
no, I'm a Tar Heel through and through, and
Nice.
I love, I still love the program. We don't have time to talk about, NIL and all that shit.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I
We'll
got
have to
some
bring you back.
feelings around how
We have to
all
bring
of
you back
that
on
is
that.
affecting
Right,
college
sports.
and pro sports
Everybody.
in general.
Yeah.
But football. Carolina was never much of a football school, but now we have
I
Bill
was Bill
Belichick.
Belichick. Yeah,
So
I was like, hold on.
and
Yeah, and his girlfriend.
if you keep that, that'll be worth nothing someday, like a souvenir.
Story. Okay. Do you do NFL? Do you have an NFL team that you watch?
So I grew up a very non-PC Washington Redskins fan. So
Really?
and I still say Redskins because
We got to
it
watch
was a
this
Washington
man in the
Redskins
building.
fan. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so I that's still my team. And
follow
it's
him.
still who again, free agency. Even when I was a kid, it's like all the players that I loved, they stayed on the same team
Yeah.
forever. Like
Yeah.
trades never
Loyalty,
happened.
yeah.
So I do get that young people tend to follow players almost
Yes.
more than they do teams.
Teams,
But yeah,
yes.
Redskins.
There you go.
There you
Okay. Do you in NBA?
NBA is even more complicated because, of course, I'm gonna conflict with myself.
Do it.
Michael Jordan, of course, I became a Bulls fan
Nice.
and I had been a Lakers fan. Lakers in Boston. I hated Boston. I loved the Lakers. I was a Magic guy for sure, and Kareem and all of that. And so today I can't pull for the Charlotte Hornets because it just doesn't there's just nothing to pull for these days.
I got nothing.
which really hurts my feelings.
Sure.
But I'm a Lakers fan.
Okay.
Yeah, these days.
Okay.
So that was a long Lakers answer.
Yeah, no.
LeBron's look, I'm a Michael guy, so LeBron's been hard on me for
Sure.
trying to do comparisons, but you just can't. You can't deny his durability more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
It's remarkable.
40-year-old guy still playing
Right.
30
At a high
plus
level.
minutes every single night.
Yeah.
I was a huge Vince Carter fan,
Yes.
another Tar Heel, and he played 20 years. But at the end of his career, he's playing 6-8 minutes a night and
Yeah.
Right.
shooting a couple 3-pointers.
Yeah, legit.
LeBron's
Yeah.
actually out there banging bodies
Right.
every
Against some
single
young
day.
cats. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you
I
got.
know.
You have to
I
give
respect that.
You have to
Yeah.
give him that for
Yeah.
sure. What about MLB? Do you baseball?
Braves. So Braves fan.
You're really
Growing
all
up
over
in
the
North
I know. I was like, that's
Growing
so
up in North
random.
Carolina,
That's
though,
fair.
who are you going to pull for?
That's fair.
I didn't have much of a choice. And
That's
the Braves, baseball was the one team state championship that I won in high school. Okay. I was not a good baseball player, but I was smart enough to actually go. I recognize we were going to have a great team.
Right, you're
my
like, let me
junior
get up
year.
in here.
I went out for the team. My position was left out.
Yeah.
That's a joke. So thank you. But I was we had great pitching, and anyway, so yeah. So Atlanta Braves still to this day.
Well, we want to say
This is
one,
great.
your story is just really phenomenal. To watch someone persevere through everything that you have and to be where you are, to speak so candidly and honestly and openly the way that you do is really admirable. It's really inspiring and encouraging. And so wishing you nothing but continued success,
Yes.
continued storytelling with your next adventure that's coming up in 2027. That's going to be incredible. You have your story that's coming out.
Yeah.
Correct? When does it come out?
Yeah. So it's going to be rolling out over time.
Over time,
There's some
okay.
other. You guys are going to have to have me on again because I
Absolutely.
do
Oh, yeah.
have a very there's a cool thing happening. I wrote a book,
Wonderful.
years
Yep.
back,
Sure.
and there's been an interesting move right now to actually option the book for a film.
Wonderful.
Yes,
So there's some
come
cool
through
stuff happening.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
yeah, so that's fun.
We got to
We'll
we
be
champion
watching.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, and
Exactly.
thanks for you guys' energy. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you
thanks.
very
Freaking phenomenal.
much.
Yeah, no.
I do this. Can we do it again
We-
tomorrow?
Listen, come on back.
I got time.
Yep.
Come on back. Just once a month.
Absolutely.
Just
Once a
check
month.
in once a
I
month.
got time.
We'll just talk stuff, but we definitely have to have you back to talk
We
NIL
do.
because we're very
Yeah.
interested in your
Yes.
thoughts
I'm
around
ready.
that.
To hear that.
But again, again, we just want to say thank you for being here. Wishing you all the continued success and the best.
It was
and
an honor. Thank you.
Yeah.
we'll have you back again.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm ready. All right. Thank you.
All right, you guys, that was us. This is Charlie, our amazing. I told you the man has had 12 lives. This is wild. So I'm so grateful for you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, comment. Come back for the next one. Until then, I'm Gloria Govan.
I'm Erica Lynn.
Peace.